Why am I terrified to fall in love? Is this normal? It's incredibly normal because falling in love is one of the most vulnerable experiences of our entire life, I think, in my opinion. And here's why. Because not only is it emotionally vulnerable, not only are you bearing your soul to another person, all of your thoughts, feelings, love are all splayed out on the table in front of this person, but there's also a sexual vulnerability as well. There's a physical vulnerability, which is what I think sets it apart from loving a family member, loving a friend, loving an animal. That's also a very vulnerable experience, but it lacks that physical dimension. And that makes falling in love romantically, in my opinion, the most vulnerable human experience possible, which can be incredibly rewarding. I think we're all well aware of that. We all grew up watching rom-coms, watching princess movies. We know the happily ever after. We know how wonderful it can be. We don't need to be reminded of that. As much as it can be wonderful, that doesn't mean it's easy. That doesn't mean it's not terrifying. That doesn't mean you're not going to get hurt along the way. There's a lot to be frightened by. And I'm not saying that to deter you from falling in love. I'm saying that to reassure you that your fear is normal. However, something that I've learned in my life is that anything worth doing is frightening. The most fulfilling things in life are a little bit frightening. Stuff that's meaningful, stuff that's life-changing is usually a bit scary. It requires the most bravery. Stuff that's easy is just less rewarding. It's low-hanging fruit, you know? It's right there. You can just pick it right off. So it's going to be less valuable. Things that require effort, bravery, courage. Bravery and courage are kind of the same word. That's the most rewarding, fulfilling stuff in life. But it's a bit harder to get. It's a bit scarier to get. It's completely normal to be afraid of falling in love because it requires the utmost vulnerability in a way that exposes you more than you'll ever be exposed in any other situation. Being vulnerable is terrifying because I like to think of it like this. It's like vulnerability is like being cut open. This is very graphic, actually. So sorry if you're squeamish, but I really do think of it like this. Vulnerability is like being cut open in a way. It's like having your stomach cut open. This is actually too graphic, I think. Let me pivot. Let me pivot to a different, less graphic metaphor. It's like being naked, you know? If a gust of wind comes by, you get cold because you're naked. You don't have clothes on. If someone takes a photo of you, now they have a photo of your entire nude body. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, if you're not wearing clothes, you're more vulnerable. You're exposed. You can get hurt more easily. See, I could have just said that. I could have literally just said, well, when you're being vulnerable, you're exposed and you can get hurt more easily. But instead I was like, well, being vulnerable is like having your stomach cut open. It's like the same thing. Anyway, that's weird. And I don't know why, but that's actually how I think of it in my head. I think of it as having like an open wound. Vulnerability is like an open wound. And if taken care of properly, the open wound can be kept clean and it's all good. But an open wound is very vulnerable. If a little bit of dirt gets in there, if you put salt in there, you can really hurt the wound more so than just tough skin. Do you know what I'm saying? I need to work on this metaphor. I'll come back to you with a better metaphor in like 6 months. Being afraid of being vulnerable is so natural because you're simply exposed. There's more risk of getting hurt. Parts of yourself that you normally protect inside, things that you normally protect under clothes, literally, because you're naked a lot of times in front of people that you're romantically involved with, right? Especially romantically in love with. All these things that you keep so close to your heart, all of these things that you protect to the entire world, you now expose to a person. All the things that you're used to protecting are now exposed. That is terrifying. So my advice to you is don't be so hard on yourself. It is completely normal to be afraid. However, don't let it stop you. Let it make you picky. Let it force you to critically think about who you're going to fall in love with. You know, I mean, not that you can always choose that. You definitely can't. But I don't know, if you like fall in love with somebody who's kind of toxic and you kind of know that, you can be like, all right, I have to jump ship. I have to like, I can't succumb to this. You get what I'm saying? Don't let it stop you, but let it make you picky. There's nothing wrong with being picky. I think that's a superpower. I think a lot of times we underestimate how vulnerable being in love is and how exposed we do feel and how hurt we can get if we choose the wrong people to involve ourselves with romantically. It's so much better to be picky and analytical and make sure that it's somebody who has good morals and values, who respects us, who's not going to turn around and fuck us over and break our hearts, you know? Now, listen, even with people that we think are trustworthy and worthy of our love can sometimes turn around and fuck us over too. But there's nothing wrong with being choosy. You just don't want to be too choosy because then you end up with expectations so high that no one can reach them. Nobody can meet them. So it's complicated. That's why all of this is so scary, because you're dealing with the most vulnerable act that you could possibly do with another human being that you can't fully predict the actions of. You can't fully control. You're taking a risk inevitably anytime you're falling in love with somebody and becoming romantically involved with them. And that's terrifying. But in order to find love and true, rewarding, fulfilling partnership with another person, we sometimes have to take that leap. But there's nothing wrong with being afraid of it. And there's nothing abnormal about it either.